Hello, everybody. You're welcome back to Right On Academia. We are still on the series on like and unlike things, right? I introduced this in our previous class, okay, and we spoke about like things and unlike things when it pertains to addition and subtraction. By way of revision, yes, let's quickly revise what we said so we can move forward. I said that we cannot add nor subtract unlike terms. Yes, we cannot add. So in anything you are doing that has to do with unlike terms, we cannot add nor subtract unlike terms. And then I also told us that when we talk about like terms, in the case of addition and subtraction, it means that our variables as well as the power must be same. Yes, that's what I said. That our variables and the power must be same in both cases. So if we have two expressions given, the variables in those two expressions should be same, even as the powers must be same, okay? For us to call them like terms, okay? The variables must be same, the powers must be same. And yes, still by way of revision, this means that if we have x plus xy, although the power of x is 1, the power of x is 1, in this case our variable are not the same. And why did I say that? Because we have x, just x, and here we have what? Xy. Okay, now thirdly, I made us to understand that we only add or subtract like terms. Okay, we only add or subtract like terms. And how do we add or subtract like terms? I said we make use of the coefficient. That means we only add or subtract the coefficient without touching the variable itself. Okay, we don't touch the variable. We just add or subtract the coefficients of the like terms. Coefficient meaning that the number multiplying the variable, okay? That number could be negative or positive. So we can only add or subtract the coefficient. We don't go and start adding or touching any variable. Is that okay? Now, today we are still going to be looking at like and unlike things. Like I said, it's more of a revision, okay? Just basic things that people need to know to avoid certain mistakes, okay? To avoid certain mistakes we do in maths. We need to know this. Now, I'm through with addition and subtraction. Today we'll be taking a step forward to look at multiplication of like and unlike things. So I believe that's what many of us are familiar with. Just that sometimes the issue in multiplication is the sign, okay? The basic issue people make when it comes to multiplication, the issue is always a case or an issue that has to do with signs, okay? Yes. Now, let me quickly explain this. Supposing we have two algebraic expressions and we want to multiply them. Now, whenever you are multiplying, it's either you see a multiplication sign or you see a bracket, okay? It's either you see a multiplication sign, okay, like this. Okay, let me use asterisk for multiplication, and then you have something like this, minus x multiplied by xy. Yes, you can multiply on like terms. You can also multiply like terms, although the patterns are different. Now, but let me start from the basic, okay? For both like and unlike terms, when multiplying, we start with the sign. Multiplication always starts from signs. So you must know how to multiply signs. Then you multiply the numbers, and then before you talk about the algebra or the variables itself. Okay, now let's start with the signs. So there are basic things. Supposing we have two variables, we want to multiply two variables, whether they are like terms or unlike terms. Like I said, we can multiply like terms, we can also multiply unlike terms. Okay, now when we are multiplying, you start from the signs. Now let's look at the signs. You have a negative algebra and a positive algebra multiplying themselves. Negative multiplied by positive will always give you negative. Okay, you must take note of this. Negative multiplied by positive will always give you negative. Positive multiplied by negative, that is when we have two algebras, okay, just two algebras. Positive multiplied by negative will always give you negative. So when you have two different variables multiplying themselves, two different variables, a negative and a positive variable multiplying themselves, your answer will always be a negative variable, okay? Now, when you have a negative variable multiplying, okay, another negative variable, I think this is an area of concern here because this is when many people have the confusion. A negative variable multiplying a negative variable, minus times minus will give you plus. Minus times minus will give you plus. Minus times minus is not minus, please. When you have the same variable multiplying themselves to the same variable, okay, multiplying themselves, as long as it is either negative negative, you have positive answer. If it is positive, positive, you have the same positive answer. So negative variable multiply a negative variable, you have positive. And then lastly, on the case of two, that is when we multiplying just two algebras, okay, a positive variable multiplied by a positive variable give you a positive variable. So like I said, you have the same variable, okay, negative, negative, multiplying themselves, you have positive results. Positive, positive, multiplying themselves, you have a positive result. Now, if you have negative multiplying positive, that's two different, one is negative, one is positive, multiplying themselves, okay, that's two different signs, okay. You are going to be arriving at a negative result. Same thing for the second case. So, like I said, this is the rule that should guide multiplication, whether of like terms, whether of unlike terms. The rule still stands, okay. Whenever you are multiplying like or unlike terms, please start from the sign. Your eyes should be on the sign. Like I said, whenever you have multiplication, it's either you have a multiplication sign in between or a bracket. Okay, you either see a multiplication sign in between or a bracket, then you know that what you are doing now is multiplication. Are we together? Now let's start with the concept, the like terms. Okay, let's start with the aspect of the like terms. I want to, so we can, because like I said, you can multiply both like terms and unlike terms. So how do we multiply like terms? Like I said, in this case, okay, let me bring it down to the case of multiplication. The like term just have to do with the same variable, even if the powers are different. Yes, when it's addition or subtraction, the like term focuses on the variable as well as the power. Okay, the like term focuses on the variable and the power. That is when you are adding or subtracting. But in the case of multiplication, the like term you just focus on the variable. Once the variables are same, then you can say you have like terms. Are we together? Now, in this case, you want to multiply, you can split. So let's start with basic things, okay? All right. So we'll be looking at the like terms first, and then the unlike terms next, okay. So when you are multiplying like and like I said, what do? We make use of the indices. There's a law called the law of indices. When we are multiplying like terms, we make use of the law of indices that say that we are multiplying the same indices of the same base, we add the powers together, okay. So in this case, the variable can become the base, then you add the power together. Now for example, you have minus x multiplied by 2x, okay, or let's say 2x square, okay. You are multiplying, this is same variable, you want to multiply. Like I said, multiplication always starts from the sign. You have to note that multiplication will always start from the sign, okay. So this is it, minus the sign here, because you cannot see a sign. Like I said, whenever you see a positive number in front, it may not really come with the sign, but a negative number in front will always come with the sign. So this is minus x, and this is positive because you cannot say any minus in front. If it were negative, you will always see the minus after the multiplication sign, okay. So now we have minus, the sign here is plus, so you start from the sign. Minus times plus will give you what? Minus. This is how you start multiplying. After multiplying the sign, the next thing you multiply is the coefficient. That's the number multiplying the variables. I told you that whenever you cannot see any number, it's 1. Okay, so in this case, it's minus 1. But in algebra, we don't really start saying 1x, 1y, 1z. No, we just use x, y, z as the case may be. Okay, so the number here is 1. That's the reason why it's invincible. And then the number here, like you can see, it is 2. Okay, so we multiply from the signs, then the numbers, and then the letters itself. So 1 times 2, you have 2. And then lastly, like I said, when we talk about like terms, in the case of multiplication, our eyes are on the variable, so we have the same variable. Now, what's the power for the first person? The same way I said there's no coefficient is 1. Once you cannot see a power, it's raised to power 1. So I said we'll use the law of indices that say whenever we are multiplying indices of the same base, we add the power. So in this case, if the variables have the same base, okay, that's their like terms. Whenever we're multiplying variables that have the same base, you add the power, okay. So this is same base, x, this is the base. You can now add the power. So when you are multiplying, you have 1 plus 2. This is how you multiply, okay? From the signs, the numbers, then the algebra itself. If they are like terms, you use the law of indices. You use the law of indices, and that will be giving you what? Minus 2. X raised to power 1 plus 2 give you 3. So we have x cubed. This is it. As simple as this, right? Now let's try another example on like terms, okay? We are still on like terms, so you have minus 3x raised to power 4 multiplied by minus 6x raised to power 2. Okay, that's x squared. We want to multiply, like I said, we are always starting our multiplication from the sign whenever you have to multiply. You either see a multiplication sign in between, now you have your minus. You can multiply negative numbers, okay? You either see a multiplication sign in between or the use of a bracket to signify multiplication, okay? Now you have this minus times minus will always give you what? Positive. And like I said, whenever you are starting a positive algebra, there is necessarily no need of using the plus sign in front, okay? So minus times minus will give you plus. Good. 3 times 6. After this times, you multiply numbers. 3 times 6 will give you 18. So we are through with this. And then the last thing, we multiply indices of the same base, the same algebra. Like I said, our eyes in the type of multiplication is just on the variable itself, not the power. If this were addition, it would have been impossible, like I told us, right? Because in this case, the power is different from here. It would have been impossible to add these two variables. But in the case of multiplication, our eye is just on the variable. So this is it. You have x and x. How do you multiply? Add the powers together. So you have 4 plus 2. And that will be giving you 18 x raised to the power 6. Are we together? Now let's take example on the case of unlike terms. Let's look at unlike terms. Okay, quickly. Now I told that whenever we are multiplying like terms, we make use of the law of indices. In the other case, whenever we are multiplying unlike terms, we just merge the variables together. Yes, this is where many people have issues because they apply this rule in addition, where you are adding unlike terms, you begin to add everything together. No, you only add variables together when you are multiplying unlike terms, when you are multiplying and those variables are unlike terms. For example, we want to multiply minus 3x, okay, by minus 6y. These are unlike terms. How do you multiply them? Start from the, like I said, the basic is to start from the sign. Minus times minus is plus. We will not really write the plus, right? Then you have 3 times 6 to give you 18. And then you have x. This is a different variable. This is y. So you multiply unlike them. Just arrange the variables, bring them together alphabetically, okay? Try to arrange the variable in alphabetic order, okay? X come before y, A come before B, and as the case may be. So this is x, y. This is it. Now let's try combination where we have like terms and somehow like unlike terms made together. So this is combination where you have minus 4x. Okay, let me open a bracket so it will be like more of a combination. You have 2x squared, then we have minus 3xy. We want to multiply this, okay? So how do we do that? So like I said, whenever you see a bracket or the multiplication sign, then you know that what you are doing is multiplication. You are dealing with multiplication. So let's start our multiplication from the sign. Okay, so for the first variable, we are expanding this bracket. So we are multiplying every algebra in the bracket by what is outside. So we are multiplying everything in the bracket by what is outside. Now this is minus for the first person. The sign here is positive because like I said, you cannot see a sign that is positive. So minus times plus will give you minus. 4 times 2 will give you 8. And then x times x squared, add the power here is 1, the power here is 2. Add the power, you have x raised to power 3. We are multiplying, you can add the power. You don't add powers when you are adding or subtracting, please. Note that you don't add power in addition or subtraction. You only add powers when you are multiplying, okay? So this is it. And then for the next person, everything in the bracket we are expanding. Minus times minus will give you plus. Alright, now this is 4 times 3 to give you 12. And then this is x. Now look, this is xy. X will multiply x, then we'll merge it together with y. Like I said, just the like variables, okay? So the power here is 1, the power here is 1. When we are multiplying indices, we just add their power. When we are multiplying like terms, okay? Multiplying indices with the same base, we add their powers. So x multiplied by this x, you have x squared. And then we are left with the other person that is not a like term. So you just bring it down, y. So we have minus 8x cubed plus 12x squared y. Now, this minus 8 is coming in front. You can leave your answer like this, it's not wrong. Or you can just rearrange in terms of starting with the positive, that is the plus should come first, then the minus should go to the back. So starting with the positive, this is plus 12x square y. So I can start with the positive, and whenever I'm starting with the positive, there's no need to bring in the plus sign, okay? Minus 8x cube. Okay, now with this, we've come to the end of this series on multiplication of like and unlike terms. Don't forget to like this video if it was helpful to you. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Turn on your notification button so that when new videos drop, you will be notified immediately. And also, if you have a topic or suggestion topics you want us to maybe treat in our next videos or our next classes, of course you can drop that in the comment section. Okay, lastly, share this video with as many as you can. We'll see you in our next class. Thank you.